Well, folks, it is actually spring in Chicago. You can't tell from the weather. Wait a second. I understand we're going to warm up. So that might actually happen. So is cool weather and rainy weather good for lawns? Is it not good for lawns? While we're talking about lawns, see that we're not going to go in that direction is like, how do I get my lawn the way I want it? No, we're doing something different this week. We're going to talk about lawn care in terms of how you can make your lawn more natural. You can get rid of chemicals. We've got Ryan Anderson, our friend from Midwest Grows Green, but we are starting with something that I just became aware of, and it's an issue going on in the suburbs of Chicago. And as it turns out, in a lot of areas in the country, it's the idea that some folks want natural turf replaced by artificial turf because they think it's better than putting in natural growing green grass. So let's bring in our guests right now. And in the upper right hand corner, you can see Yuh Schabacker-Koppel with her son, Jocum Schabacker. And Mary Galea is in the lower left. There's our buddy Ryan Anderson in the lower right. Let's start with you. And it's funny to say that. But what is going on? You're from Lake Forest, right? What is being proposed in Lake Forest?
So Lake Forest, they have the Parks and Recs department. They have proposed to take the Deerpath Community Park, which is behind Deerpath Middle School, and take 10.5 acres of that, which is equivalent to 7.5 football fields, to try and sort of give a image in people's head of how big an area this is. And they want to take out the natural grass and turn it into synthetic turf. And these fields, they haven't been maintained for years, but they are not willing to try to use natural grass. They only want to go with synthetic turf. And from several perspectives, as an environmentalist myself, it is appalling. I can't see how synthetic grass, which is basically plastic, is going to ever become sustainable. There's the other issue that I know from my children who are athletes, and my son next to me, he's a soccer player. The good soccer players, do not like to play in synthetic turf
Well,
because it causes more injuries.
all right, let me ask Yoakum there. Why don't you like? I mean, we're talking as you said, it's an environmental issue because there are chemicals involved in putting in artificial turf. But let's get to the practical issue of athletes. Yoakum, why is it a problem to play on artificial turf?
So for athletes, it's more injury prone. So immediately when we shifted from grass to turf over the summer, we immediately saw shin splints a lot in a lot of my teammates. And then furthermore, one of my teammates got his cleat stuck, similar to what Odell Beckham Jr. did in the NFL Super Bowl. He got his cleat stuck in the turf and towards meniscus. So there's a lot of injury prone incidents with turf. And furthermore, it's just a whole different feel to the game. It's a lot quicker and different. And then also, it's very hard to maintain these turfs. We're very fortunate to have a very good upkeep turf here, but we went to an away game up north, and their turf was so beaten down it was almost like cement. So that has a huge impact on your muscles and joints and bones, which you really see as you play like 40 games a season and practicing constantly for 3 hours each week.
Yeah, that and as you said, we're not talking about one soccer field. You can drive down Lakeshore Drive and you can see in Lincoln Park that there are a couple of fields that are artificial turf. We're not talking about that. We're talking about 7.5 football fields worth of turf, 10.5 acres. That's a lot. So, Mary, why does that pose a problem? Why are you concerned about it as a Lake Forest resident?
Sure. As a mother of a young child that will be exposed at developmentally critical periods of her life, I'm concerned about the synthetic turf. And it also seems like, a lot of people have gotten the memo that we are seemingly swimming in plastic. And this legacy of doing more and more plastic, even to the point where we're replacing natural grass with plastic itself, is a concerning legacy to leave our children. Where are we going to be with this plastic grass in 10 or 20 years? Since it doesn't last time, synthetic turf fields have to be replaced in about 7 to 10 years. And then the plastic grass itself generally ends up in a landfill as it's not recyclable. And it just seems that there are better solutions that could meet the needs of the entire community, from the athletes to the middle school students that would be using these fields for physical education class. So I would like to see more collaboration and work with experts like Ryan to develop more long-term solutions to synthetic turf, where we actually do maintain natural grass at a very high level and high quality.
And speaking of Ryan, some people would say, well, this solves the problem of putting chemicals on lawns, because that's so harmful to pets, to human beings, to the biology of our soil. But you're a guy, and you've talked about it on our show before, who says you don't have to do that. You can actually have a decent lawn without putting in artificial turf. So I imagine that you're pretty much siding with the women and Jocum, who we've just talked to.
Yeah, absolutely. Artificial turf doesn't provide any biodiversity benefits. Yes, turf grass is a monoculture, but if you're applying compost, you're applying organic fertilizers, and you're doing these proper cultural management practices like irrigation, you can have a very diverse soil environment, but you don't have that with artificial turf, because it's just infill, some sort of artificial infill. So there's no biodiversity at all, no environmental benefits.
All right. So you're going to be encouraging municipalities, as you always do, to put in natural turf. You have a couple of webinars coming up next week. What are those about?
Yeah, so next week we're introducing our Green Shield Certified for Landscapes standards, which is a sustainable landscaping standard. Right now, that we aren't aware of a sustainable landscaping standard across the U.S. So a lot of companies and park districts and school districts will say they're managing their fields sustainably, but we don't really know what that means. So we're formally identifying these companies, these park districts, these municipalities that are implementing sustainable landscaping in terms of reducing their synthetic pesticide and fertilizer use. But we also have standards for installing native plants, using as little of turf grass as possible. Of course, that's not always possible if we're talking about a sports field. But these companies and these park districts, they're going to have to pass a rigorous 3-year on-site evaluation that goes through some minimum requirements that they need to make, about 40 minimum requirements, and then they need to score above 80% or above on these scored practices, which there are about 105 scored practices that cover everything from design to installation to maintenance of these landscapes. And so that's the kind of rigorous. And then if they achieve Green Shield certification, they will be able to market that to customers as well as to any other businesses that they're trying to work with.
No pun intended, but that's rather groundbreaking. Thank you. I'll give myself a ding on that. So we're looking. We've just scratched the surface of this because of the chemicals involved in the artificial turf, and as Jocum mentioned, the injuries that occur on artificial turf, and it seems as though there's a wave. Folks want to put these in because it's big business, as you've pointed out to me. And we'll talk about that big business, why it might be a danger to our kids. On Sunday's show, I hope you join us. It will be at 9 a.m. Central. Please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe if you can. You can also watch us on Facebook and on Twitter and at MikeNowak.net, 9 a.m. Be there. We'll see you on Sunday.